Is AI going to replace clinicians?
No, so really the hope is that AI will be there as a supportive tool to clinicians so that they are improved in their abilities as clinicians. They're augmented in terms of the type of quality of care that they're providing. I'm leading this because I want to make sure that the benefits of AI are maximized in that regard and the risks are minimized. And I think I can do that.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Cherry Live. I'm Alita, and for those of you tuning in for the first time, Cherry Live is brought to you by Cherry Health, Canada's medical network, where healthcare professionals go to find and post jobs and to connect. Cherry Live, of course, is our podcast series where we connect with innovators, entrepreneurs, and professionals of all sorts who are working to move Canada's healthcare system forwards. I am very excited today for this episode where we're joined by Dr. Noah Crampton. Noah is a family doctor and researcher at Toronto Western Family Health and the University of Toronto, and is the co-founder and CEO of Mutuo Health Solutions, which is a startup leading the commercialization of Canada's leading AI ambient scribe for clinicians called AutoScribe. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Louise. It's my pleasure.
So let's dig in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you to medicine in the first place before we get into the AutoScribe and the AI stuff?
Absolutely. I've always been a sort of like nerd and thinking, what's the next thing coming down? How can I be part of that excitement, right? Um, I was coming up in my training years, really interested about how medicine was going to change over my lifetime. A 50-year career as a doctor is a long time, so a lot can happen during that time. And I was always keen on thinking about how can I provide the best care to my patients using the new tools that were becoming available. And obviously, so I wanted to become a doctor because I loved connecting with humans and providing my knowledge base where I can filter that through clinical judgment for the particular case that patient is presenting with, and providing that whole person care, really getting to know them and making sure they feel valued in the care that I'm providing. I think there's just a dynamic there that's really special. So that's why I went into medicine to begin with. And then, I always viewed my career as okay, partly will be patient care directly for sure, but also partly will be about, trying to think about what those innovative tools will be and
Mhm.
how we can deploy them as a early adopters kind of person that I am to provide that extra value. So that's what happened in medical school. But then I, obviously started to focus on the particular issue that I ended up being passionate about.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, everyone's really curious about AI and where this is going next. But first, tell us about, how and who joined the team and how you guys decided to start Mutuo.
Yeah, so basically, there was immediately when I got into medical school, there was a disconnect between what my life was as a consumer with the amazing tools that were starting to come out with smartphones and very amazing powered sort of suggestive searches, etc. Versus what I was experiencing, as part of the digital tools I was using in healthcare. They were very poorly designed. They had very minimal functionality, and in my head, I'm like, healthcare is the most important thing. You can't do anything else in your life if you don't have your health. So you
Yeah.
think that as a society, we would invest the most we can to ensure that we're providing the highest performing tools for that objective of patient care and health. Um, so when I realized that, I thought, okay, there's obviously a reason why it's structured this way, and part of that, was with the poorly designed systems and the administrative work related to all the complex patient care we were doing was also skyrocketing. So
Mhm.
on the one hand, the volume of work was going up, but also the tools used to enable that work was very onerous and not friendly to the user. So it led to the extreme frustration, even at my early stage as a medical student,
Mhm.
that I then decided I'm going to orient my career to solving this administrative burden through novel technological tools. So I went through residency, became a family doctor, and then after that I decided to pursue a master's of health informatics, and that's where my research hat came in. Um, And it was in that research where I decided to really focus on leveraging the power that, Toronto is a world-leading center for development of the new AI
Hmm.
algorithms that are out there. We have, Jeffrey Hinton is one of the world most forward thinkers in this space, developed the neural networks that are powering all these tools.
Hmm.
And he created with some other institutions what's called the Vector Institute. um, and so I was based at a hospital here in Toronto called St. Michael's, doing my master's, and I connected with the leading computer scientists at the Department of Computer Science at University of Toronto and the Vector Institute. And that's where I met my co-founder. Um, so she was the computer science. I'm the clinician, sort of, systems guy. She's the programmer.
Yep.
And it was between the two of us we conceived of, okay, we can solve this. We have the expertise to solve clinical documentation using artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty exciting. And so you and your co-founder embark on this journey and start digging into building a company. Tell us how that was, as a practicing physician and also trying to build this tech startup. How has that been, digging into that whole journey?
Yeah, so at first this was a research project, right? So we just wanted to prove that we could do this, right? We didn't want to embark on that journey if we weren't able to execute on the actual core task, and thankfully we did. So we published a couple papers. That was at 2018, 2019. Um, and so then, our mentors, both my co-founder, her name is Serena Jevely, her mentor, my mentor, Mohammed Mamdani, we're all saying like, let's see if we can make like a real system impact. So we decided to spin off a startup from that academic research, where that startup, Mutual Health, would have exclusive license to the core intellectual property.
Hmm.
And then, I was encouraged because obviously by nature I wasn't necessarily an entrepreneur, but I'm a fast learner, and I'm not afraid of trying new uh, sort of like big ways of executing on an objective. And entrepreneurship to spread an important healthcare innovation is definitely a major way of doing that. So throughout the pandemic, I was obviously practicing clinically, but we really got this our AI tool very reliably functional as a software application. Did all the privacy, security, and legal work. And
Hmm.
then as of the basically a year ago, we went into the market with our tool, and we launched, and that's when like the real commercialization took place, doing marketing,
Yeah.
hustling between different healthcare organizations. And we're excited. Yeah, we're really growing at a nice clip now. People are definitely seeing the value of AutoScribe.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. Tell us, in your opinion, where does this technology really support physicians? How does it help them practice more effectively?
Yeah, I mean, there's really different like um, core benefits that are meaningful to different physician types. So, for instance, if you have the microphone on in the exam room, you're talking to your patient. On the screen, you'll see AutoScribe in real time generating the note for you as the doctor. Now, that means like multiple layers of benefits. So, if you're, for instance, you know, let's get out of the way. Like a lot of doctors, they just want to increase their financial compensation. You'll
Yeah.
definitely have more efficient visits, and you won't have to do your notes after the encounter. It'll all, very minimal editing work required. You save so much time. You can then see more patients or roster more patients, and you'll be correspondingly. There's a return on investment of 4x in that regard. Then but sometimes it's not just about money, right? It's about could be connecting with your patients. You don't have to stare at a computer screen throughout the encounter. You can really notice their nonverbal cues, their body language.
Yeah.
That's really important for clinical assessments. There's you can get really deeper connections with your patients, which is really rewarding as a clinician. As I said at the beginning, we went into medicine to connect with patients, and that
Yeah.
really fosters that aspect. And what I really was motivated by, and what many are, is that liberated time that comes from using AutoScribe. First of all, makes better notes than I can do.
Yeah.
AI is sometimes smarter than me, which is kind of jarring, but it's fun. But beyond that, there's a burnout element to how much administrative work we're having. It's a well-known problem in healthcare. The volume of patient complexity and the amount of tasks that require effort in the electronic medical record is enormous. So this relieves like a huge component of that administrative burden. And so I can, instead of seeing more patients, I could um, you know adjust my wellness by seeing my family and friends, and sort of reset myself so that I'm to be the best clinician I can for the next day. Right, I have more time to do that. So it really brings back the joy of medicine. That's our tagline. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that. I mean, we are constantly having conversations with physicians and clinicians on through Cherry. And one of those number one things is just getting some time back, and that the burden of that administrative task, the burden of, trying to multitask at the same time of taking the notes, remembering what to jot down, and then being able to treat a patient. So it makes a lot of sense. So tell us how it works. Tell us how AutoScribe actually works.
yeah, so you can use it as a standalone application. That you get you sign up, you'll get a login. You go to your browser, you'll just click and launch, and it'll start recording. It'll access your computer's microphone, or you can use it on your phone, your smartphone, and it just let it run in the background as you're talking to your patient, because it has the intelligence to, yes, transcribe the actual dialogue, but also in real time generate the note representative of that dialogue, which we would normally as clinicians have to write from scratch ourselves. So you see that happening in real time. And by the end of the visit, it like will structure it in the right the format of a note template that you as a clinician prefer. You can set that in advance depending on which tier of service you sign up for. And so, basically on average, because the editing is so minimal, you're saving like 2 to 3 hours of charting time per week, which is just a huge amount of time saved. Um, and so, that's sort of like the standard way. Then we have a couple of electronic medical record integrations, EMR integrations, two of Canada's leading EMRs for outpatient care, which is TELUS, PS Suite, and Oscar EMR.
Mhm.
So if you have that version, what's nice about that is you just launch it from inside the patient's chart in your EMR, and it'll bring that patient's context inside AutoScribe, so it already knows which patient it is, and you can refer back to it if you want to go back to that AutoScribe generated note, and then it'll post directly into the progress note section of that EMR, so you don't have to copy paste from this like you would do from the standalone application. But yeah, I mean it's super easy to learn, super easy to sign up.
So, I mean, that's great feedback. Tell us great context. What are doctors saying about using AI? I mean, there's within the AI world, there's plenty of pushback of, "Ooh, this is scary," or, "Ooh," I think a lot of physicians see the words AI and think, "Oh my gosh, I don't know, that might not be for me." But what kind of feedback are you getting from physicians who are using the tool, or what are some of those commonly asked concerns that they have, and how are those addressed?
Yeah, and like that's the benefit of how, like we started this a few years ago now, right before the Chat GPT revolution. Everybody should know. Everybody
Yeah.
probably knows what Chat GPT is now. It's sort of like this out of nowhere, very intelligent AI that understands language. But there's concerns about like how did it get the data to understand all of that?
Mhm.
If the data keep continuously being fed into it, and it's going to some large corporation and monetizing that data. In healthcare, we're very, very careful about how we leverage patient level data. Right? There's very key regulations you have to adhere to. Um, so the benefit of us starting early is that we have a long record of already thinking about all these issues. So, for instance, you know, our data that we've trained our algorithms are very much in-house generated, so that there's no concern about that leakage of data to third parties that you didn't consent to. Speaking of consent, we have a very robust, easy to implement patient consent process. When a
Mm.
patient is informed about what AutoScribe is doing, the audio recording process associated with it. We have third-party assessments that have done very deep, rigorous assessments of our privacy and security compliance. So we want to minimize all the risks because the benefits of AI are enormous. Like this is just the beginning of trying to capture some of the benefits, which is these administrative task automations. Um, But AI, because it really does understand language at a deep level, it can start doing other tasks. The one thing that we're really focused on as a company right now is minimizing what's called bias and hallucination. So there's these two major issues that can occur with AI, and again, we've been thinking about this from the beginning, which is which data sets you use to train your algorithms can have biases baked into them. So they would overrepresent certain patient populations than others. So how do you ensure proper representativeness so that the outputs are always equitable? Um, the hallucinations is basically sometimes these large language models, which is the type of algorithm that power these algorithms, uh, randomly, like 1 to 2% of the time, will just say generate something completely random that has nothing related to what it was prompted to do. There are ways to restrict that um, occurrence of these hallucinations. You can't eliminate them at this time, but it's actually ensuring like you are working through a very rigorous step-by-step process that minimizes the hallucinations as much as possible. But that's all to say, like, you should never treat AI scribe generated notes as the final note. As a clinician, it's your job professionally to ensure that clinical documentation is appropriate. So so there, once in a while, you may see hallucination, and that we ensure in our application a very trustful process of ensuring the editing occurs in a way that the clinician feels good about.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, one of the other things that we hear about a lot is technology and just how often people, there's new technology coming in all the time. It doesn't always communicate with other systems, or it can be really difficult to use. So I think that's quite well appreciated that this technology also, a lot of that user experience and ease of using it is brought into the mix. So yeah, and so you're saying that there has been a focus in terms of making sure that it's easy to use and that physicians can actually not stumble around too hard figuring out the process.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things we really pride ourselves on is we recognize that every doctor's in a different stage of
Yeah.
learning a new technology tool, and sometimes it's easier or more difficult for different clinicians. So first of all, we offer a 30-day free trial, which is is part of that part of that benefit is that it gives that time to for that first week or two to really install the process into your workflow, get used to it, and then you really in those latter 2 weeks of that free trial, like the benefits are like super apparent, right? But also in those 1 to 2 weeks, like we're there as a company to provide that hands-on change management support, whether remotely or in person across Canada. We're able to do that. So, you know, that fear of introducing even a new tool. There's already a lot of technology tools, but even a new one, we try and minimize, how much challenges there are there.
Gotcha. And so tool right now really helps in that patient interaction, getting those notes done easily and effectively, and then and putting them together. Where do you see where do you see things going next? What's kind of the next kind of stages in your opinion for AI and this tool?
Yeah, exactly. This is just the beginning, which is so exciting, right? But it's actually critical to understand why we started here, and it's because um, when you're able to have an algorithm understand what you as a clinician, your diagnosis is, what you're verbalizing as a diagnosis, what you're verbalizing as an action plan clinically for the patient in front of you, a lot of subsequent EMR tasks, administrative tasks that you have to do can be auto prepared based
Yeah.
on that understanding. And that's where we're going, based on our level of, the depth of an integration with an electronic medical record. We can go to, if you're going to say to your patient, I'm going to prescribe you metformin 500 milligrams twice a day, the prescription field could be like, we suggest you want to automatically prepare that prescription, right? And then the doctor just reviews that and prints it rather than writing the prescription from scratch again. So just like test orders, referrals, all of that can be auto prepared in real time based on how we've structured our algorithms. which is pretty unique to how we function at Mutual Health. And you can even go further in the future where the AI's reviewing all the literature about a specific illness, and it's
Yeah.
distilling, the recommended next diagnostic test or treatment plan for that patient based on what it sees. Again, it's always filtered. I always want to stress, doctors are worried about AI replacing. AI is not going to replace, not for a very, very long time. They're going to augment our capabilities. They're going to make our capabilities more streamlined and efficient. Um, and that's ideal for patient care. We can see more patients, provide higher quality care. We can get compensated for the extra patient volume you end up seeing because of it.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation all around, while minimizing all the inherent risks that AI can have.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And we're seeing it come into play with reviewing x-rays, all different types of material and stuff too. So just I think that to me is always really interesting, is how can these things all speak to each other and make sure that, while security and while some of the, how information is passed around is also thoughtful, how can a patient's experience take in holistically everything that they're getting done and review where they're at in their with their health to make really great recommendations that one physician alone or even a practicing group can struggle with, or takes hours and hours of review and planning and things like that. So it's kind of a very interesting and exciting next steps forward for sure. And so how about for Mutuo? You guys are growing right now. How Tell us a little bit about the journey for you as the leader within the organization. I think we do love to talk not only to you about the technology and what you're building, but also that journey of, a lot of physicians going into being a founder and leading a team and building an organization. That's not easy, but I think it's amazing because we need practitioners getting their hands dirty. You guys know best what you're struggling with. So tell us a little bit about what it's like really to be kind of in the leadership capacity or building a company, perspective for you that others might want to think about if they're thinking about getting into starting something.
Yeah, and this harkens back a little bit to what I was saying at the beginning, because um, so I truly feel that I'm much more an academic in my soul, and being academic is great. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it has extreme benefits, and part of that is because I just love the critical lens of appraising, evidence and making sure a rigorous, scientific studies are conducted. Like that filters down to me practicing as a clinician. The problem with academia for these novel digital tools is that these the proliferation and spread within the healthcare system of these tools requires enormous amount of effort and capital that really a private venture, hopefully a very socially minded private venture, is only really the only vehicle that will enable that to succeed. And I'm motivated by system impact. I want patients across Ontario and Canada to benefit from the tools that we develop, not just my local academic site and just slow, you know, slow transfer from that perspective. So that's what's really motivating me. And what now that we're in the marketing phase of AutoScribe, it's extremely rewarding, because each time a new doctor signs up, they get through the 1 month free trial. By the end of it, they're like, "Holy!" They're like, "Wow!" Like this is transformative, because many of them were burnt out or on the verge of burnout, and they realize how this isn't the magic bullet for everything, but it's certainly helping a lot with addressing a big portion of their burnout, so they can sort of give them a space to breathe and reflect and how they're going to optimize their work process. And so for me, as a founder with a growing company like that, those stories is what's going to inspire me to keep addressing and keep going further and growing, and hopefully beyond, right? Not just Canada, like go internationally, because humans are humans, patients are patients all around the world, and that impact could be global. Then that would be amazing. And what I'm really focused on now is there's a lot of legacy sort of institutions and how the systems are, how different organizations are built within, government health systems. So thinking about how can a novel technology tool be adopted into those legacy systems, right? Because the otherwise you're just
Yeah.
you're not realistic about what the state of the healthcare is.
Mm.
So that's what's really my big focus for now, because I know I have the impactful tool. I just need to get it into real world practice.
Yeah. I mean, and we've seen that as one of the biggest challenges in this system is how do you get it in front of doctors? How do you encourage them to try it on for size and see if it impacts them when there's so much going on and so many new technologies and so much, they're already overwhelmed to begin with. So, you know, marketing to them is difficult, getting them to try something new is difficult. All those steps along the journey can be really challenging. And tell us, within your organization itself, I mean, you talk about physician burnout and wanting to try and impact them. How do you bring that culture back into your team or into your place? And what does that look like for the team that's actually a part of Mutual?
Yeah, so like those stories are super impactful for me, but they're also like every time our team meets. So I have my technical meetings with the people that are actually building the application, the software, and then I have my business team, and we're always meeting regularly, um, and everyone gets juiced up. Every week we have new, very positive testimonials that come in, and that's just adds fire to us to either build that new feature or reach a new segment of healthcare providers that we didn't have reach to before. So, um, you know, the people that I've chosen that are part of our team are very much motivated by that core inspiration. They're not, there's many other companies out there that you can make a lot of money quickly. This is something that's a long journey. Like we could be hopefully in the future, a very economically beneficial company, but the team here is motivated by providing the relief to physicians to provide the best care.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're a growing team of 8, and if you're interested in joining us on our journey, please reach out to me as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
anyone can find them on Cherry or on their website at Mutual or AutoScribe as well. Oh, that's too funny. No, I mean, because I think we hear a lot too about, and I've seen this a lot in my experience of we have with this vision for this great impact. But sometimes it's really interesting that disconnect between this vision for this great impact and then and being able to help people out there. And then the way that sometimes manifests internally in the team is like, go faster, go harder. It's okay. Like, the burnout within their own teams in a
Yeah.
startup, just in the startup world is pretty high. So it's kind of a funny hypocrisy that ends up playing out. But no, that's great to hear that you guys really have been brought together by that mutual vision. And hey, most startups aren't exactly the place you go to make cash quick.
Yeah.
That's okay. And so, I mean, for you, we've talked about AI, building companies. Where do you see healthcare in Canada kind of evolving over the next few years? What are you hoping to see so that we can, yes, with through AI, but ultimately, as a physician who's practicing and seeing a lot of these challenges as well, where are you hoping we're heading in Canada?
Yeah, Canada, is actually one of the most in terms of like those legacy sort of system setups and legacy technology tools, like
Yeah,
really, really impeding innovation. Unfortunately, like that is we are known for that as a country in healthcare.
yeah,
But we have some core features to our system which is very, very beneficial for a future state of AI. So, for instance, every province links their patients to an identifier.
yeah.
They each get a health government supported healthcare with a healthcare card, a number that represents the free service that they're going to get whenever they go to a doctor or hospital or whatnot.
Mhm.
Um, that actually enables the tracking of that patient throughout the entire journey wherever they go for healthcare. That data exists whether they go to one hospital or another hospital, they go up north in a province or south in a province.
Mm.
The data tracking that patient's journey through their healthcare system is there, and all that needs to happen is more predictive algorithms to say, you know what, this patient is, going to a walk-in clinic a little bit more than they were before. We should check in, the family doctor should check in with them to see if there's something that can be actionable before they end up in hospital. There's going to be all these predictive, proactive opportunities because of how Canadian healthcare is structured. When you think of other systems, that many countries do not have that one
Mhm.
identifier following their patients. So again, Toronto's a world leading center for AI development. We just got to get that world leading technology into the existing world of healthcare, and then like we can really leapfrog from our bottom of the pack status as a country in performance for healthcare, and leapfrog to the top. I truly believe that.
Love that. Well, I think being mindful of time, this has been a fantastic conversation. Anything else you want to add to the Cherry audience that you think is important for them to know about where you all are going?
Yeah, so as with my researcher hat on, if anybody just wants to discuss AI in general in healthcare, many is various different applications, please reach out to me. Happy to just discuss at that level. I would love to demo AutoScribe for you. I think once you see the demo, you will have your mind blown, just like many of our other clients. So you can find us at our website, mutualhealth.com, or you can email me, noah.crampton@mutualhealth.com. And it's going to be, I promise you, it's an exciting journey if you want to join us.
Amazing, and we'll make sure that those that contact information is all in the show notes as well, so that anyone can get a hold of you. But Noah, thank you for joining us today. And I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg here in terms of what's happening next. So very excited to follow along with your journey and continue to see where this AI world takes healthcare in Canada. So thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.